Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. Welcome everyone to my channel. Today we're going to be doing this problem. If you're coming from the previous video that I made, where I put this problem out in order for you to solve and for you to come to this video to see the solution, welcome. And if you just saw this video for whatever reason, thank God. I'm happy that you're here as well. First, I want to say this question is basically a polynomial on the right hand side. The left hand side is a polynomial enclosed in a square root where we're supposed to solve for x. So you have the question x squared plus 4x plus 4 enclosed in the square root and x squared plus 2x minus 6. Now there are two ways of doing this. The first option is for you to, first case or slash method would be for you to square in both sides. X squared plus 4x plus 4 squared, okay, equals to x squared plus 3x minus 6 squared. So now what this entails involves the square root squared. When you do that, what you end up with is not the square root or the squared, but what is inside of the square root. So that is what is going on here. So basically the square and the square root cancel out. What you end up having is x squared plus 4x plus 4, and then what you have is x squared plus 3x minus 6 is the same as x squared plus 3x minus 6 multiplied by x squared plus 3x minus 6. When you go ahead and you do this, you end up with on the left hand side, you end up with basically x squared plus 4x plus 4, and when you FOIL or you expand these two group of terms in bracket, you see that when you first of all multiply x squared and x squared here, and do the same thing here and do the same thing here, and you FOIL it and you do the same thing here, here and here, okay, and you basically do this and this and this, what you end up finding out is the first term here is going to have a power of 4, so x to the 4th. We are also going to have x to the 3rd and have x squared in this. Now this first case and method is something that you can do, but guess what? In mathematics, we do not want our question to become more complicated. We want our question to be more simple. We need to simplify the question that we're given so that we can have a process of simplification in our solving so we can get our answer much more easier. But in this particular case, we just made the work much more complicated. There's a different way for you to do it. Before I start explaining the different way for you to do it, I wanted to first of all introduce myself. Hi, I'm Habibah, and I am an online chem science math tutor. And this video is definitely dedicated to the students that are currently studying for the International Mathematics Olympiad competition coming up. I wish you guys all the very best. It's also dedicated to other students that are currently studying this part of algebra. I wish you guys all the very, very, very best. So this case does not work. I'm not going to advise you, or I'll say this case works, but it's much more difficult. No matter how much you love math, you love to simplify things, you do not like to make it unnecessarily complicated. The next thing that we can do, the second case slash method, is for us to rewrite the question, of course. We have x squared plus 4x plus 4 equals to x squared plus 3x minus 6. One thing that you can do in order for this to work is for you to, first of all, look at whatever is enclosed in the square root, right? X squared plus 4x plus 4 is the same thing as x plus 2 multiplied by x plus 2, which is the same thing as x plus 2 all squared. What I'm saying is that when you expand what is in the middle, or what is on the right hand side, you're going to get the left hand side, and when you de-expand, basically you make it expanded, you see that the question we have up can also equal to x plus 2 all squared equals to x squared plus 3x minus 6. At the end of the day, cancel this out. So what you end up with is this. You end up with x plus 2 equals x squared plus 3x minus 6. And I wanted to mention something. Some of you might be wondering that why did I square the left hand side and the right hand side? The reason is because squaring the left hand side and the right hand side of this equation, whatever you do on one side, you have to do to the second side, because we're doing something new on top of something that already existed. But in this particular case, we're not adding anything. We're just finding a different way to represent what is enclosed in the square root, something to make our solution much more easier. We don't have to do the same thing we did on the left hand side on the right hand side, because all we did was change what is on the left hand side to make our work much more easier. It does not necessarily involve us adding anything or taking anything away. It just involves us manipulating our question in order for it to be easier to solve. So then you have x plus 2 equals to x squared plus 3x minus 6. Now, one thing that may be a little bit confusing for people is what we just had here falls into a category where we have to apply an absolute. So we don't just have x plus 2 equals x squared plus 3x minus 6. We actually have the absolute value here, which is absolute value of x plus 2 equals x squared plus 3x minus 6. That is what we have. We have an absolute value. Here and here equals x squared plus 3x minus 6. And yeah, this is it. Now you may be confused, why do we have to do that? I'm just going to quickly teach you. If you've watched the previous video, we had a question very similar to this. You already probably know how to handle this. But these are the three reasons. These are the three things that have to happen in order for you to know that you have an absolute. So the first one is that the index number has to be even. So what is an index number? An index number is the number of the square root. So if I ask you for the index number for a square root, that's 2. If I ask you for the index number for a cube root, that is 3. The index number of a fourth root, that is 4. The index number of a seventh root, that is 7. So you have to have that as one of the things that must be met, one of the rules that must be met. The second thing is the power inside the square root, or inside the root. It doesn't have to be a square root. The power inside the root has to be even, okay? And the third one, the power outside the root after solution, okay, must be odd. So these are the three rules that must be met. Even, odd. Now, guess what? Index number for this particular question, this is square root. Index number is 2, and again, this follows the rule. The power inside of the root has to be even. X squared, right? Hence this follows it. And then the last one, the power outside of the root after solution has to be odd. Well, x plus 2, right? X, the power of x here is 1, and 1 is an odd number, hence that's the case. So at the end of the day, what you end up with is this equation after application of the square root and the squares cancelling out, you end up with x plus 2, and it has to be in an absolute value symbol, because all three conditions for it to make the absolute value symbol has been met. That is it. If the index number was odd, we're not going to have this situation. If the power inside the root was odd, we're not going to have this situation. If the power outside of the root after solution is even, we're not going to have this situation. So hence, all these three conditions are met, and this is what we're going to do. So now we have that. Next thing we have to do is we have x plus 2 equals x squared plus 3x minus 6. Because what we're handling now is an absolute value situation, there are two cases that can happen here. We have a case 1 and a case 2. Before we go on to explain the case 1 and the case 2, I want you guys to know something. Just because something is in what an absolute value does is to make whatever is in the absolute value symbol to become positive. Or have a positive value sign. So it does the same thing as like a squared would do, right? That is the same thing that is going on here. Have a positive value sign. Now, what that means is that our x can end up being a negative number, okay? Our x can first of all be a negative number. I don't know why I put a positive there. And x can also be a positive number, right? It can be both. It can literally be both. So what that is telling you is that there are going to be two cases, and those two cases represent the fact that on one side we can have a positive answer for x. On the other side, we can have a negative answer, but what we're not really interested in the positive and the negative answer for x. Only we are also expecting that what is in the absolute value can either be negative or positive. So for example, if you have the absolute of negative 12, it's the same thing as 12. Or the absolute value of negative p, it's the same thing as p. But guess what? We could also have the absolute value of 12 to be 12, and the absolute value of p to just be p. So you can see both situations have two different cases. That's why we have a case 1 here and a case 2. So that's basically what I'm trying to show you guys. And that's it. And I'm going to go through solving it. That was just an explanation for students who may be, struggling or whatever. So that's it. That's really what is going on here. I think that when we go on to solve it, it will be much easier. So for any student who has already solved this already, maybe from watching the previous video and you know how to do it, you can just, you can increase the speed of this video so I can get to like explaining it to you much quicker. But I'm breaking it down for all students who may not know how to solve this by themselves. So yeah, that is basically that. So you have this. So you have like the first case, x plus 2. Now in this particular case, what I want is for my x to be less than negative 2. That's why, because negative 2, well, when x is less than negative 2, that means it's to the left of negative 2 on the number line. So therefore, everything in this absolute value for case 1 would be negative. Okay. And then we have case 2, right? Where we have case 2 where x is going to be greater than or equals to, x is going to be greater than or equals to negative 2, because if it's equal to negative 2, what we're going to have in our absolute value is 0, and the absolute value of 0 is 0. But we could also have something that is greater than negative 2, which is on the right side of the number line. Hence, what we would have inside the absolute value would be positive. So we can have the total information in the absolute value to be negative or to be positive. So in this situation where we have an x less than negative 2, that is the situation with a negative value enclosed in an absolute value. So x minus 2x squared plus 3x minus 6. Well, the way to solve it is to just put a bracket here and put a negative in front of x plus 2. You can either do that, or you can do it put the negative in front of x squared plus 3x minus 6 enclosed in the bracket. You can do that, but I prefer to do it on this side. It doesn't really matter this side, you're still going to get the same answer. So you have negative x, negative 2 equals to x squared plus 3x minus 6. So you end up with x squared plus 3x right? Plus x minus 6 plus 2. So we end up equals 0 because we're putting everything on one side. So we end up with x squared plus 4x minus 4 equals 0. So that is the case. And then, yeah, that is basically the case. So that is the first thing you have here. And then we can also do the same thing on the right hand side. We have x plus 2 equals x squared plus 3x minus 6, which is the same thing as x squared plus 3x minus x minus 6 minus 2, right? All of that equals to 0. So x squared plus 3x minus 6 minus 2. So that would be x squared plus 2x minus 8 equals to 0. So this is basically like two different situations that could happen. So I'm going to rewrite these two equations on the next page. So we can go on to solve it further. So we have x squared, which is, let me quickly write this. The case of x is less than negative 2. That's case 1, and x is greater than or equal to negative 2. So that's case 1 here. Case 2. So you have that. You now have x squared plus 4x minus 4 equals to 0. So a equals to 1, b equals to 4, c equals to negative 4. So you have x equals minus b plus or minus b squared minus 4ac over 2a. So x equals negative 4. So negative 4 plus or minus b squared is the same thing as 4 squared minus 4 times 1 times negative 4. So all of that equals to 2a. So that's 2 times 1. That will be x equals 2 minus 4 plus or minus 4 squared is 60. 4 times negative 4 times negative 4 is positive 16 divided by 2. So x here is going to be negative 4 plus or minus 4 times 4 is 16. 16 plus 16 is 32 divided by 2 here, and x in this case is negative 4 plus or minus negative 4 plus or minus we have this to be 8 times 32 is the same thing as 16 times 2, right? So that's going to be square root of 16, square root of 2, all of that divided by 2. So x equals to negative 4 plus or minus what do you call it? The square root of 16 is 4 root 2. So that over 2. So that's that. And you can literally end up with negative 2 plus or minus 2 root 2. That is one answer. There's that, and then there's a second one where you have so there's a second one where you're going to end up with this as the answer, where you have x is greater than or equals to negative 2. What you end up with is, let's go there, that would be x squared plus 2x minus 8. So x squared plus 2x minus 8 equals to 0. And guess what? This is actually something you can do quickly. Just because I'm explaining into detail, that's why. So you have this here, you have x equals to negative b, that's negative 2 plus or minus 2 squared. B squared minus 4ac over 2, so that would be 2 squared. By the way, if you're wondering what I'm doing, I'm using the quadratic formula. Copy what we have on the left hand side and just substitute the values. So b squared has 2 squared minus 4ac, 4 times 1, times c is negative 8 over 2a, which is 2 times 1, so x equals to negative 2 plus or minus 2 squared is 4. Negative 4 times 1 is negative 4 times negative 8. That will be 4 times 4 is 32. 4 times 8 is 32 plus here. So 32 divided by 2. So that will be x equals to negative 2 plus or minus 33, 34, 35, 36. So 36 here over 2. That will be x equals negative 2 plus or minus 6. Okay, divided by 2. So that will be negative 2, right? So that would be negative 1 plus or minus 3. That's what x is. X equals negative 1 plus or minus 3. Guys, you guys can see I'm doing both cases at the same time, so you can seriously just compare. So where you have is, I'm just going to rewrite what we had previously. So x equals to negative 2 plus or minus 2 root 2. And x equals negative 1 plus or minus 3. Negative 2 plus or minus root 2, that would be x equals negative 2 plus 2 root 2. Just so you know, this is going to give you a positive number. Okay? But then you have x equals negative 2 minus 2 root 2. This is going to give you a negative number. Right? If you use your calculator, that's what's going to happen. Remember what the case situation is? Case 1 is x has to be less than negative 2. X less than negative 2 here is, you have to pick which value of x. Well, here, the first one, if it's a positive number, it cannot be less than negative 2, so not this one. And our value for x in this question is equals to x equals to negative 2 minus 2 root 2. So that's the answer. And then you have x equals negative 1 plus or minus 3. So that would be x equals to negative 1 plus 3. X equals to 3 minus 1 is 2. That's 1. Or x equals to negative 1, negative 3. So x equals to negative 4. And guess what? We want a situation where x is greater than or equals to negative 2. We want x to be x equals 2. So this is our answer. So both of our answers here would be x equals to both negative 2 minus 2 root 2 and x also equals positive 2. So this is how you solve it. I'm not advising you to take 25 minutes to solve this question. And also forget that I'm also a teacher, so I'm teaching you guys step by step. If for a student that may be struggling, I'm teaching you what wouldn't work out, and I'm teaching you what would work. So you can see the first one, I told you what would not work. That's the first slide. The second slide, I explained to you how to determine that something is going to have an absolute value. We went on to use the quadratic formula because that's the easiest way to solve it. We broke that down and then we went back for what our case is supposed to be. We're either supposed to have a negative on one equation, a positive value of x in another equation. We have our answer to be this. So this is just to teach students, but if I were you, you're going to take this question and take the questions that I did from a previous video that led some of you to this new video. You should take that opportunity and you should also do the two problems, but you do it off the top of your head, you do it quicker, and you should practice. You can only practice how quick you can do the questions by doing practice. So yeah, that's it. I wish you guys all the very best. One more Olympiad style question to help you guys on your exam, as well as other math videos and science videos. Make sure you check our channel. I wish you guys all the very best. If you like this video, please make sure to like it. If you choose to subscribe, make sure you click on the notification bell. I wish you guys all the very best. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.